All right. All right, Rudy with Alpha Investors. Welcome back. I know, with all the hoopla, hoot nannies, bamboozling, today we're going to talk about the reserve list, old school Magic cards, and a lot of moving and shaking happening. Simply put, because Wizards and Papa Hasbro keeps pumping out the new products, everybody is focused on all the hot new stuff, and simply put, they should be, because there's so much of it, there's so much stuff to follow. I'm stuck on a piece of tape. Oh my goodness. And pretty much, there's not really much focus on the older stuff. That's where we are in 2020. So today, I know a lot of people have been commenting, Rudy, you don't cover the reserve list at all. So I'm going to try to do a little bit better job of that, because there has been a lot of activity in it, and I just haven't been covering it, and I feel like that's kind of on me. So obviously, when we have new releases from Papa Hasbro every 30 days, it's tough to kind of fit into the old school stuff happening, because Magic has become such a vast, massive world and economy of so many products and singles and sealed and eras and formats and playing and blah, blah, blah. And so, yes, there's been a lot of buying, a lot of upticks in the reserve list, a lot of legacy. Obviously, a lot of people say Commander EDH is driving the prices. The point is, a lot of old reserve list cards, whatever you want to point to the rationale, is really indifferent in this video. I'm here to report on what's going on with it and the pricing and the movements. That's all we really want to focus on, this kind of a news-related video today. So, obviously, everybody knows, a few disclaimers out front, Arabian Nights, Antiquities, type of Legends, Four Horsemen original sets are obviously Rudy's Playground's my favorite thing, so obviously understand that. So whenever I see upticks in these, I do get excited for it. And of course, I always, to this day in 2020, I firmly believe, simply put, cards like Arabian Nights are just got to be some of the most underpriced, ridiculously cheap assets in the world of Magic. And yeah, I use the term assets because, we're in an era where literally, a VIP box is just under $400 for a little pack of a couple cards. But back in the day, you can buy cards that are literally from 1994, 26 years old. You can buy original Arabian Nights or Antiquities or Legends, massive powerhouse original reserve list cards for pretty much the same price range. And it's kind of funny how everybody used to call those as, overpriced and all the speculators, investors, and now, everybody's perspective on what's considered expensive and cheap is shifting as we move forward. So let's get into this. So I want to go give you guys my opinions on a couple things. First, we're going to start here, before we jump to those Four Horsemen sets, we're going to start with this, Weatherlight. Obviously, everybody knows that box opening of Weatherlight, one of my personal favorite sets. Obviously, you've seen the intro of the video. I have a large position in it because I just love the box. I've been buying it for years and years. And I've always felt it's just the cheapest 1990s box. And that's why I kept buying it as long as they were $500 and less a box. I was like, these boxes are 25 years old and they're cheap. Really? And I've been buying nonstop for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So, obviously, after that particular box opening video, we did notice a price shift in the sealed boxes of Weatherlight, because a lot of people were like, wow, there's a lot of reserve list cards in there. The sealed box is $500? That's not even much difference in a new release master box price. So a lot of people kind of realized we already saw an uptick in the sealed boxes of Weatherlight. I think the video I did on that kind of brought attention to the product, and other people realized, geez, that is kind of underpriced. And the market repriced it. I don't think that's a short-term blip. I think it's going to be, the box I've always felt should be around $1,000. And I think now they're $600 to $700 range, which again, for a 25-year-old product that doesn't have millions in existence, I think that's a great opportunity. And I just love the product. So, but here's the big buts. Everybody likes big buts. So let's just lay this out there. The cards within Weatherlight, I've noticed a huge behavior shift and a lot of bids and a lot of amateur investor collectors coming into the market targeting the cheap reserve list cards again. We're starting to see that when it comes to these Weatherlight, I don't know, $5, $3, $10 cards. That I don't fully agree with, although I like the product and some of the unique nature of it. I'm still not fully on board. I don't really recommend a lot of people taking thousands of dollars and trying to buy out a $2 reserve list card and buying hundreds of copies of it. As I always like to say, if it's 2020 and the reserve list card is still $2, there's a reason for it. It's obviously the market is telling you that it's just not worth it and the opportunity is not there. It's not iconic. The utility of the card, the availability, it's there for a reason. So I want to lay it out there. So a lot of these random cards, I'm not talking like Weatherlight, like Peacekeepers and Null Rods and, you know, the Paradigm Shift. And I'm not talking about cards that are actually decent. But there's just like Fallen Empires, you have reserve list cards that are really cheap. Just like Ice Age, there's reserve list cards that are just, there's just no value to it. And of course, Ice Age of 4th edition did have the largest ridiculous print run, but that's a different conversation. Now, let's jump over to the next thing here. On my little list, I want to talk to you guys about Urzas. Specifically Urza Saga. Everybody knows Legacy and Destiny. Legacy is my favorite. Saga is my second favorite, and Destiny is my least favorite. But I want to comment specifically about the actual uptick in reserve list cards and older cards from the Urza's block. Now, this is a little bit different than the Weatherlight buyout on reserve list cards. These cards actually have utility. People like these cards. And of course, I'm going to point to the infamous, let's start with what? Cradle, Gilded Drake. So I got a couple examples here. The Cradle, obviously Gaia's Cradle, Gaia's Cradle, Gia's Cradle, everyone calls it a different thing. Point is, Dr. G, the Cradle, Cradle continues to be an upward momentum card. I remember when I first started buying that card pretty heavily and wanted to build my position like 2013 to 2015, 16. I remember when that card was around $100, and I remember thinking, this is an expensive card for an Urza's card. But then I remember thinking it's reserve list. There's no foils except like I guess like a promo or something. So it was always considered the best card in Urza Saga. There's never been an argument about it. So you have to remember from day one, Urza Saga, the Cradle has been the powerhouse. This isn't a new card that was discovered in modern time, and we had a knee-jerk price reaction. That wasn't really how the timeline of life unfolded with this particular card. Now there are other cards that did happen. Bazaar Baghdad in the 90s was a garbage $5, $10, $15 card, stayed that way for years. You see what I'm saying? There are cards out there that get discovered later on that have more value. Look at Ice Age. Jester's Cap was the best $30 card in Ice Age for like 5, 10 years. And now nobody even cares about that card. You see what I'm saying? So there are cards that are discovered later on, which have rubber band kind of snapping price actions. But then cards like the Cradle have everybody's known since day one this was a powerhouse. This isn't a surprise. This isn't anything that's, so when you see a $100 card like Cradle go to $200 and spike to $250 during the reserve list buyouts in 2017, and everybody's, and then it retraced to what, maybe $175, $200, maybe 20-30% retracement, which is normal. And now it goes to $300, $400, and now it's what, $500s, maybe $400 if you get a played one. You see my point? So when you see a card like this, and people say, Rudy, I still don't have my playset of Cradles. Should I buy into near mint pack fresh Cradles at $500 a card? And my answer would be, do you need the card? Do you really want it? What are you trying to do? Is this a speculation? Do you want it for a deck? You just simply want to have a position in it. If that is your answer, then yes, you need to have a position in it, because another 5 to 10 years from now, it's simply put going to be a $1,000 card. And I don't think it's going to move much of the sealed boxes on the value, because an Urza Saga box is already like $3 to $5 grand. It's already up to that. Eventually it'll be maybe 5 to 10 grand a box, but overall, it's kind of already way up there in the clouds. It's already been priced in that Urza's boxes are rare. They're tough to get. And even Legacy Destiny boxes that are what, 1,500 to 2,500 range, I mean, they're already pricey. Back in the day when I remember buying them, and I made my original video in 2016 about Urza's, I remember telling everybody, Urza's Legacy and Destiny boxes at $500 a box are stupid, they're underpriced, and they need to be worth a lot more. I made a video that 4 years ago warning people about that. And here we are, the idea today of somebody saying, oh my God, an Urza's box for $4.99? Yeah, and that was the price for like 7, 8 years, and nobody cared. And so you do have market anomalies like that. Sometimes things get kind of stuck with price memory and what they call range bound. It happens all the time on Wall Street and the equity markets, even in the debt markets. You'll see certain assets or certain, like in the debt market, you'll see certain QSIPs that will sit at a specific high-low range bound until it breaks out of that kind of range. And usually it'll have to trend lower or higher when it breaks out of that average or moving average garbage. So Magic's the same way. There are products that do follow this same kind of trajectory. It's not very common, but it does happen. Most products don't really do that, but it does. The Urzas is a great example. I got a whole long list. This is going to be a longer video, so be aware. We are still going, right? All right, just checking. But no, this is going to be a longer video because I really want to have a good conversation with you all. Sometimes we need to really discuss this. And I know a lot of people they just listen to my videos, don't even watch them. So anyways, back to the Urzas thing. So overall, you know, when I see cards like the Cradle pushing 400-500 plus now, honestly, it's reserve list. And you know, when I see charts and graphs like that, I say, wow, I'm surprised it took this long. That's usually my reaction to a card that's already iconic, already powerful, already reserve list. So there's not really much else to say. I do want to jump over to Gilded Drake because this is more of an up and coming price movement. This is more of what I like to call the newly discovered in the last 5 years. Now, Gilded Drake's just like the what's the legacy card called, the blue one, Palinkron. What is that stupid card? Comes into play. It's like 7 mana, 4/5. Comes into play, untap 7 lands. Gilded Drake is one of those similar type. In other words, it comes in, you get your money back kind of thing, and it has room for shenanigans, especially if you're having some sort of, you know, you don't tap that many lands, you can get extra back, whatever. Point is, cards like the Drake and cards like these, I think they call them reset cards, or what do people call those things? There's all kinds of terms. I remember when I was a teenager, and I remember back in like high school, college, people were talking about, they were called them reset or refund cards, where you played the card and untapped your lands, but of course you had to originally be able to pay for the card. So it was kind of like a check. It was like a checkpoint to make sure you had that much lands and you're far enough into the game. Anyways, point is, cards like Gilded Drake, this is more of a newly discovered underpriced card. It's a little bit different. So when I see cards like this from Urza Saga, go from like a $10, $20 card to a three-figure, $100 plus card. This one you got to be a little bit more careful on. Because this is a new money and new investors and people trying to hop on the bandwagon. A lot of Timmies and Lemmings are going to follow this trend. If you are looking for this type of card, I'd recommend actually kind of sitting back and waiting and letting the market cool off. You don't really want to buy into a hard uptick or a parabolic move unless it's something very unique or specific. The Gilded Drake thing, I think there's going to be better opportunities if you still need that card. I think you should kind of sit back and kind of chill out and let the momentum on that one kind of fizzle out. Once the momentum starts to stall and the people who have it, who are looking to lock in those profits, realize that there's not much more upward momentum, they will tend to lock in that money, and then the supply will come back to the market. So cards like, now I want to touch on a couple other Urza's cards. You got like the Sneak Attacks, the Phyrexian Towers, which, by the way, you know, Sneak Attacks get reprinted in master sets, previous master sets, and the new double masters, I think. Phyrexian Tower, was it a Masters or Jumpstart? One of the newest things, the Phyrexian Tower. Again, Urza's cards, not reserve list, but the original versions are still upticking in price, even when we have these reprints in a lot of uncommon and rare slots from the Urza's era into modern booster boxes, whether it's a core set, a Jumpstart supplemental, or of course some sort of new Master specialty, fancy schmancy, wear a tinfoil or a top hat to open it. Cards like this reinforces that this is just simply people wanting the original variant of the card, and they're buying based on original printing, and they're buying based on artwork. So this is a little bit different than the example of like Gilded Drake. So while like Phyrexian Tower or Sneak Attack may not be reserve list, there are always going to be people seeking out original printings with original artwork, whether it's just for collecting set completion, or simply they just want that OG original gangster feel of having that and bragging rights. That's always been that way in Magic. Cards like that, again, as long as it's a slow, steady growth over long periods of time, again, those are always cards you just want to buy into sooner rather than later, because it's not really a dramatic price swing. So that's really what I had to say about Urza in kind of that Weatherlight stuff. So to sum it up, again, you know, usually once every about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I like to do a vintage box opening with the patrons. You know, we did Weatherlight recently. I've got a couple more in the queue coming. All kinds of, we like to make the fancy intros and have fun. But overall, it does, keep in mind, those videos get a lot of views. Usually on minimum after 30 days of release. Usually they're about 100,000 plus views. And some of the box openings on like the Urzas and different ones we've done, these things will go to about 500,000 views. Some of them even almost start approaching 1 million views long term. So it does bring a lot of attention to even non-Magic players to attention of old school Magic product. And of course, unless you're really into the world of Magic, you're really not going to understand the importance or the significance or the special treasure, at least in my eyes, of these old products, because they are just really old and they are not going to be any easier to find. My ability to accumulate more in 2020 versus even 2017 is a huge difference from a couple of years ago. So I think that's it for that topic. We're going to jump over here to actual old school reserve. Now we're going to go to the Four Horsemen: Arabian Nights, Legends, Antiquities, the Dark. And then I got a little bit of conversation on like the mana crypt situation. A lot of people have been asking me, and also like dual lands about the uptick in this. So before we get into these couple, the Four Horsemen, dual lands, and kind of book promos, I want to comment on a couple little things. There's not really a lot of people talking about this older stuff because the market in the world of Magic, all eyes are focused on this booming new flashy economy. And it appears that Wizards is just swinging home runs right now. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I don't know how long Wizards is going to be able to keep these home runs with flashy, expensive products. This is all new. We don't have any data. Some people are using data from the sports card world or maybe the Marvel Universe world with Flair, Fleer, Spider-Man, X-Men type stuff. It's really up to the individual to make their own opinion. But I do believe there will be a point where Wizards will stumble. Okay? There will be a product. Obviously, Double Masters and VIP, all that stuff is not the issue because it's just ridiculous. Nobody can even keep the stupid things in stock. Double Masters is going to be a home run. It's not going to be some sort of iconic Masters 2.0, Master 25. That's not happening. Double Masters is a type of premium products. They're all going to be monsters. Everyone's always going to want to play and open those things. It's going to be a lot of fun. But there will be a product in the future, whether it's some sort of new jumpstart or some sort of holiday product, whatever it is, there's going to be something that doesn't do as well. And that could always trigger, the end of a bull market or the beginning of a bear market or kind of a slowdown or a cool-off period. All it takes is one mistake. Looking at you, Force a Whale, with Millennia of Ages back in 2015. All it takes, or 2016? I don't know. All it takes is for a company to make one stumble, and you can change the attitude and momentum of the entire marketplace. And I do believe eventually, Wizards is not perfect. They're going to all these new directions. They're going to end up stumbling on something because it's new. I think they are doing the best they can, but the fact they're doing so many products, they're going to have a hard time really staying focused and keeping up on things. We're seeing this already with some issues with print delays, whether it's due to the virus situation or due to lack of quality control. Printers can't keep up. We're already seeing a little bit of focus loss. We're seeing a little bit of Wizards losing focus, and then they say, oh, sorry, we screwed up on what's in the VIP boxes. We messed up the rare mythics, and we lied, sorry. You're seeing already a few little stumbles because they're having a hard time keeping up with because they're doing so many products. So think about that. So there's always going to be that risk. But at the same time, in 2020 with the volatility, again, if you don't believe me, most stores, and I believe when I say most, I say at least 80-90% of all LGS or Magic related stores around the country have extremely low inventory levels, period. And in the long run, this is a very bullish indicator for all products released in 2019, 2020. And it's going to yield a lot of positive, above average returns for anybody who has the stomach, balls, kahunas, tether balls, the best taco party pack, and be able to stay the course. Because simply put, no matter what everyone thinks, people are not able to hoard this much product. There's just too much out there. It's not realistic. So when that shift happens, not if, but when, whether it's a month, 6 months, or 6 years, when this shift happens, everybody, a lot more focus and attention is going to go back to reserved lists and old school cards. And when you have things like that, you can see a massive swing and a shift of where the money flows. Because right now, literally tens and tens of millions of dollars is going to every new product, and everything's flowing amazing in the world of Magic. And the old school Magic world is very calm. Not dead, it's calm. So that's a good intro for me to lead into this. So right now, I want to comment to you guys. So on the Four Horsemen sets, I want to comment on a few. Let's start with Arabian Nights, everybody. On Arabian Nights here, let's start with, I got Elephant Graveyard. So this was a card I was ridiculed for buying my 100 copies of Elephant Graveyard for about $25 a card back in, I think, 2016, I think it was, because I remember it was so cheap. I remember thinking, how on earth is an Arabian Nights land with a unique ability, with no downside, that's 25 years old at the time. How on earth is this like a $25 card? And I remember that was that was kind of what sparked a lot. That was one of the cards that really got me moving into the Arabian Night direction. Because after that, I realized, well, wait a minute, how many other cards are like that? And then it came to Cabal Ghoul was another one of the cards I had looked at a long time ago. And I remember thinking, again, why is this like a $20 card? It just seems too cheap. And the market didn't care. Nothing really happened with the price of it. It stayed that way for a long period of time. So fast forward to 2020. Here we are. After this long period of time, Cabal Ghoul and cards like Elephant Graveyard, the Island of Wackety Walk, you have these Arabian Night cards that are getting some attention now. And since there's not really a lot of mainstream news or action or playability or utility with the card that's changed, this is strictly some investors and collectors just saying, hey, these cards are really cheap. They're from 1994. It's 2020. These things are 26 years old. And why on earth are these rare old cards like $30? So you're starting to see a little momentum change, and there are some people going back and targeting these old cards. I personally think it could be the beginning of a new bull market for that era, but I don't know. It's too soon to say. It could just be a flash in the plan, a flash in the plan, a flash in the pan. It could be a blip on the radar. We don't know if there's going to be sustainability with it, but it does appear that there are people starting to put money into the Arabian Nights again. And obviously, you guys know that's my favorite Magic set of all time, so I'm extraordinarily biased to the product. It is the lowest printed expansion in Magic's history. I think the next lowest printed expansion is going to be either Antiquities or maybe Portal 3 Kingdoms. The quantity, even for a common card, the common card in Arabian Nights is still way more rare than like a Mythic in today's new product, to give you an idea of the difficulty of getting these things. And you factor that in with cultural shifts, sensitivities, and bannings, and all kinds of the new evolution of going on in 2020. It really just adds even more, fuel to the fire for these very old, unique, and rare products, everybody. So when I get back to just to sum up the Arabian Nights conversation, I've seen the boom and bust of, Rudy influenced Bazaar Baghdad. We've seen the boom and bust of the Drop of Honey that went almost to $1,000 a card, back to like $100, $200 a card. We've seen a lot of these extreme movements of money entering and leaving the market, but at the grand scheme of things, the vintage Arabian Nights world is pretty calm now. It's pretty stable. And as I said 6 months ago and 12 months ago, if it's something you want to collect or build a set or anything, because, having a full set of Arabian Nights, it's only like, 90 cards? 90? I don't remember how many cards, 92? Having a full set of Arabian Nights is just something special, at least to me. So I think that's something that everybody should consider. Moving forward, I want to jump over to, some people asked me about like Urza de Jinn and a couple of the other ones, because that one's not reserve list in Arabian Nights, and there was a couple other ones like the common cards and uncommon Arabian Night cards, like the Blacksmith, Replenish Blacksmith. There are a couple little cards that have gotten a lot of bid activity. The Urza de Jinn, again, reprint, was that even 4th edition or just Chronicles? I can't remember. But the original version is obviously becoming extraordinarily expensive. This is another example. Set collectors, people wanting original black bordered Arabian Nights with that infamous sword on that logo. It's a very distinctive card. They're very tough to get. Again, reserveless or not reserveless in Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends doesn't really have a lot of impact, because a lot of people who buy into that stuff don't really care. They just want particular sets. They want card. They want exposure. So they just love it. The people who get obsessed in that era or that category or niche market of Magic, people like me, a lot of those people become obsessed with it like me. So reserveless isn't always that imperative when building sets for Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends. So, all right, I want to jump over to obviously not much to say Antiquities, kind of quiet, so we're gonna let that one be. A little bit of bids in the strip mines and the factories, but nothing dramatic here. Last time we reported Antiquities, the big news was the Transmute artifact and Power artifact had the big move. So not really much movement since then. But I do want to jump to Legends. I've talked to you guys about this for a long time. In Legends, I remember telling you guys, it's such a massive set. There's so many bizarre rares and little things in it. The opportunity for all kinds of little corners of the market making moves is very large. And I always felt Legends is going to have a lot of weird surprises in the future. So today in Legends, obviously, we got like Gwendolyn. Obviously, Gwen is one of my favorite Legends and favorite Magic cards of all time. For those of you who knew me or met me in the when I used to go to the Magic events and all that stuff before crap hit the fan back in 2017, 2018, Gwendolyn was one of my favorite Legends cards of all time. I love Gwen more than I love like Tabernacles type cards. Although the 4 Black Horsemen are still probably up there with my favorite also. All Hallows Eve, Nether Void, Chains. What am I missing? Abyss, sorry. Those 4 Black Horsemen cards are epic, man. They are got to be some of the coolest Magic cards ever, so don't downplay those cards too. They are powerhouses. But when it comes to Gwen, this card started to get a ton of attention once Wizards started doing the sensitivity, cultural, different bannings, reasons, whatever they want to come up with. because obviously everybody looked at the card, the artwork, kind of the history of that card, and obviously everyone feels this is definitely going to be a card that's not only is it reserved list, but the artwork, everything about it is just a no taboo card for 2020. And you know, I've been buying into Gwendolyn's for, I don't know, 5 to 10 years at this point. I started buying them at $50 a card, and I probably stopped buying them when they hit about $100 a card. I just love it. I don't really have much to say. This is a particular card that I honestly think has just been underpriced for a long time. I don't see much retracement of the card. And similar to cards like, you know, Invoke the P, there are certain cards that it is what it is now. These are not short. This is a permanent game changer for some of these cards, and I just think they're going to be expensive and very symbolic, unique cards now that are sought after for set collectors and investors now. So, all right, I want to jump over to, I guess, the Mana Crypt and Dual Lands real quick. Then we're going to end the video here. Well, I've been talking for a while here, but people ask me about the Mana Crypt thing. Rudy, how come Mana Crypt, the original book promo, old framework, old version, has been upticking in price? Even though it's been reprinted in Eternal Masters, now it's being reprinted in Double Masters. It's got a super fancy version, the VIP. What's going on? How come the prices are getting reprinted, and the original is going higher and higher? And that is a textbook example of what happens when people want original versions, and reserve list does not make any difference. Original Mana Crypt, just to give everybody a little 10-second history lesson, obviously was only available as a promotional book promo card from whatever magazine it was, kind of a sign-up giveaway type thing. This card was deemed not very good for the longest period of time. This is a bizarre Baghdad type story. In the 90s, Mana Crypt was not a powerhouse card. It wasn't like you gotta use Mana Crypt. It's epic, man. 0-drop artifact. Man, you're gambling. You could get 2 mana. You could take damage. Mana Crypt was not a major thing. It really wasn't some sort of... This was a discovered powerhouse later on. So obviously you always have people coming to Magic and wanting original versions, and they try to go back. What we do here is go back. And that's what happens. So seeing original versions of Mana Crypt kind of decouple with the downward reprint values and the original kind of separate, that's kind of expected. That's really not very surprising. It is what it is. I don't see it changing, period. So last thing before I end the video today is Dual Lands. Not a lot to say about it. I remember talking to you guys 6 months ago when the economy started getting shaky with the virus stuff, and in 2019 talking about the reserve list, stores ending buy listings for Power 9. I remember telling you guys a good sign of market stability in the return of the old school Magic when you see upticks in Dual Lands. That is the cornerstone, that is the ground floor of the old school Magic world. So, we're seeing a lot of strong buying in price increases in the Dual Lands from Unlimited, but this is mostly due to the lack of supply on Unlimited duels. Unlimited duels are so tough to get, especially in good condition. Revised Dual Lands are obviously the easiest to get. There's the most out there of like, they estimate 220 to 250,000 print run for each revised duel. Even today, even if 60, 70% of those are still in existence, you're looking at 100, 150,000 still floating in the world. There's still quite a bit out there. But the point is, we're seeing bids, we're seeing upticks across Dual Lands across the board for revised, which is again reinforcing, like I told you guys about 2 months ago, I think it was. We're seeing signs of stability in the old school Magic world, and now we're starting to see some uptick in bids. I don't think we're going to see a lot of easy money. I don't think they're going to skyrocket. I don't think any of that is going to happen. But the most important thing is we're seeing the shift in market from probably a bear market to probably starting to move up into a healthy, more stable marketplace. Not like a crazy parabolic move like Pokemon and new stuff. So overall, the Dual Land thing is important. I've told everybody, if anyone is serious about old school Magic, the 10 Dual Lands is kind of the entry level, kind of the baseline to get into that kind of stuff. So I think it's authentic. I don't think it's an investment buyout or an investor or a company. I think the nice slow uptick in these old Dual Lands is actually authentic people, authentic growth and demand of people buying the cards. And that's really all I have to say. That is really today's long video of discussion. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope everyone's kind of understanding all these moving parts. Magic's a monster game nowadays, and it's just a huge economy within itself. So be safe out there. Have fun as always. And I don't know. I think that's all I really have to say.